Topic for this chapter is computer function. The basic function performed by a computer is execution of a program which consists of a set of instructions stored in memory. The processor does the actual work by executing instructions specified in the program. The instruction processing consists of two steps, which is fetch cycle and the execute cycle. This is the basic image of the basic instruction cycle. The processor reads or fetches instructions from memory one at a time and executes each instruction. The program execution consists of repeating the process of instruction fetch and instruction execution. The instruction execution may involve several operations and depends on the nature of the instruction. The program execution halts only if the machine is turned off, some sort of unrecoverable error occurs, or a program instruction that halts the computer is encountered. In the fetch cycle, what actually the instruction fetch cycle will do, at the beginning of each instruction cycle, the processor fetches an instruction from memory. The program counter or PC holds the address of the instruction to be fetched next. The processor increments the PC after each instruction fetch so that it will fetch the next instruction in sequence. The fetch instruction is loaded into the instruction register. The processor interprets the instruction and performs the required action. What are the required actions for the fetch cycle? So these are the action category or the required action category. The first one is the processor memory. The data may be transferred from processor to memory or from memory to processor. The processor input-output. Data may be transferred to or from a peripheral device by transferring between the processor and an input-output module. The third one, data processing. The processor may perform some arithmetic or logic operation on data. And the last one is control. An instruction may specify that the sequence of execution be altered. So these are the general action category that will be performed by the processor in the fetch cycle. Now we are going to see the format inside the instruction cycle. So we see here this is the instruction format and this is the integer format or data format. So both of these formats consist of 16 bits of data. Now you see that at the instruction format, it starts with 0 and ends at 15. So it means that this instruction format consists of 16 bits of data. Same with the integer format, it starts with 0 and ends at 15. So it means that integer format also will have 16 bits of data. Inside the instruction format, it's segregated or classified into two classifications, which is the opcode and address. Opcode means operation code. So inside the operation code, it will locate 4 bits of data, and the rest will be the address data. While the integer format, for the first bit, this one reflects the signed number. Whether it is a positive number or negative number, and the rest will be the magnitude of the data. Right. So the what registers involved inside the CPU? Basically, the program counter, PC, the instruction register, IR, and also the accumulator AC. So AC is a temporary storage. And this one is an example of the partial list of opcodes or the operation codes. So remember that inside the format, it only can receive 4 bits number of opcode in binary number. So here, 0001 is the opcodes for the instruction for the instruction. So these 4 bits of data will be located inside the instruction format in the opcode classification. So what does it mean by 0001? So 0001 means to load accumulator from memory. It also has the opcodes which is 0010, and this one means store accumulator to memory. And the last one is 0101, and this means to add to accumulator from memory. So basically these opcodes binary bits data will be located inside the opcode in the instruction format. Before this, you know about the computer components that consists of the memory, CPU, input-output modules, and then you also learn about the instruction cycles and instruction execution. You know the format of the instruction, what registers involved in the CPU, and so on. Now we are going to have a further look on the program execution. So this is the overview of the program execution, starting from the step 1 until step 6. Now we are going to have a closer look on the program execution for step 1. So if you see here, this one is the memory part and this one is the CPU registers. So what registers involved in the CPU is the PC program counter, AC accumulator, and the IR instruction register. And the right hand side here, this is the list of the operation codes. So remember that the operation code is in a binary form. And this one, 0001 is the opcodes to load accumulator from memory. 0010 is the opcode to store accumulator to memory, and 0101 is the opcode to add to accumulator from memory. And this one basically is the binary form, and you need to convert it into a decimal number. So 0001 in decimal, it becomes 1. 0010 in decimal, it becomes 2. 0101 in decimal, it becomes 5. So here what happens is, inside the CPU register, inside the PC is the program counter, and what's the meaning of the PC is to contains what is the role of the PC? Basically, it contains the address of the next instruction to be fetched from memory. So here 300 is the instruction that need to be loaded, okay, from memory to the instruction register, right? So this one 300, it will find the value inside the memory with address 300. So in main memory with address 300, the value is 1940, and this value will be loaded into the instruction register first, and the PC will be incremented after this instruction has been executed. So this process involves the use of a memory address register and a memory buffer register, but for simplicity, these intermediate registers are ignored. The next step 2, right? So this is the program execution for step 2. So before this, in step 1, the PC contains address 300, and once it has been the instruction has been executed, the PC is incremented, so it becomes 301. So now what happened is, inside the instruction register IR, it contains value 1940, and this is the instruction format. So remember, the instruction format, it consists of the opcodes and the addresses. So this is the opcodes, 1 is the opcodes, and 940 is the addresses. So this one, the opcode is 1. So 1 is equivalent to 0001. So what is the instruction is to load accumulator from memory. So what basically the value should be loaded to the accumulator. So it based on the value with memory address 940. So here the processor will find the memory address first. So the memory address is 940. So here it will find the memory address 940. So inside the 940, it contains data which is 000303. Next, the processor will determine the opcodes, the operation code. So the opcode is 1, which is load the memory value inside the memory into the accumulator. So this value, which is 3, will be loaded into the accumulator. In step 3, you can see inside the PC, it contains address 301. So in step 3, the next instruction will be carried out. So it will fetch the instruction from the memory. So the instruction located in the memory with address 301. So processor will find memory with address 301. And the value inside 301 memory is 5941. And this value will be loaded into the IRO instruction register. And again, the PC will be incremented once this instruction is executed. In step 4, the processor will look into the IRO, the instruction register. So inside the instruction register, it contains 5941. So 5 means the opcodes and 941 is the address. So 5 here, it reflects to the 0101 in binary form. So 0101, the instruction is to add to the accumulator from the memory. So what is the value that should be added to the accumulator is based on the address of the memory 941. So the processor will look the address 941 first. So 941, it contains value of 000202. And the instruction is to add this number, the memory value, into the accumulator. So this value 2 will be added with number 3 before this inside the accumulator. And the addition results number 5 inside the accumulator. In step 5, the instruction will fetch the next instruction as stated in the PC program counter 302. So basically, this PC is incremented once the instruction has been executed. So from 300 to 301 and now 302. So the next instruction is inside the 302 address memory. So the processor will find the address 302 in the memory, and the value contains inside this address is 2941. And this address, this value will be loaded into the instruction register. And again, this instruction register, it contains of the opcodes, operation codes, and the addresses. So 2 is the instruction that need to be carried out by the processor, and 941 is the address inside the memory. So what is the instruction? So this one in the decimal number 2, and when it converted into the binary number, it carries 0010, and the instruction is to store the value inside the accumulator to the memory. So here it will find again the address, and it will see the instruction that need to be carried out. This is the last step. So this is the instruction to 941. So 2 is to store the value inside the accumulator to the memory, and the address that the value should be located is in 941. So the processor will find the 941, okay, and inside this address, the memory of the accumulator should be stored. And the value inside the accumulator is 5, and this number 5 is located or is stored inside the memory with address 941. Before this, we look into the basic instruction cycle and the program execution. So basically, the instruction cycle is a basic one, or it only refers to one reference to memory only. However, the execution cycle for a particular instruction may involve more than one reference to memory, and the instruction may specify an input-output operation. So the basic instruction cycle can be a complex one, and this one basically is a diagram for instruction cycle state diagram. So this is more complex of the instruction cycle. So we are going to look into each state of this instruction cycle. So the first one, the instruction address calculation. It determines the address of the next instruction to be executed. Usually, this involves adding a fixed number to the address of the previous instruction. Next, the instruction fetch to read instruction from its memory location into the processor. Next one is the instruction operation decoding. The role is to analyze instruction to determine type of operation to be performed and operands to be used. And the next one is the operand address calculation. So this role, if the operation involves a reference to an operand in memory or available via input-output, then determine the address of the operand. For the operand fetch, it fetch the operand from memory or read it in from input-output. So the next one is the data operation. Perform the operation indicated in the instruction. And then this one, the operand address calculation, I have explained before. And the next one, the last state is the operand store. So this state, the role is to write the results into memory or out to the input-output. Now we are going to see the interrupts as one of the functions in the computer. Virtually all computers provide a mechanism by which other modules, for example, input-output, memory, may interrupt the normal processing of the processor. Interrupts are provided primarily as a way to improve processing efficiency. So basically, there are 4 classifications of the interrupts: program, timer, input-output, and hardware failure. So inside the program classes of interrupts, basically it generated by some condition that occurs as a result of an instruction execution, such as arithmetic overflow, division by zero, attempt to execute an illegal machine instruction, or reference outside a user's allowed memory space. For the timer class, generated by a timer within the processor, and this allows the operating system to perform certain functions on a regular basis. For input-output classes, generated by an input-output controller to signal normal completion of an operation, request service from the processor, or to signal a variety of error conditions. And the last one, the hardware failure classes, the interrupts generated by a failure such as power failure or memory parity error. This is a program flow of control without and with interrupts. So if you see here, there is a difference between the 3 diagrams. The diagram A with no interrupts, diagram B with interrupts but short input-output wait, while the C diagram, it has interrupts but long input-output wait. So we look at the diagram A first. So this is the user program, and this one is the input-output program. So the user program runs smoothly until the write called the input-output program, and this input-output program runs smoothly until it flags either successful or unsuccessful of the input-output operation, then it will pass back to the user program, and this user program continues and then it find or it call the right program for the input-output again, and the input-output will process the operation input-output operation until the end and pass back to the user program until the end of the process. While diagram B, this one we can see the input-output program and the interrupt handler. So the user program, it will go smoothly until the write to the input-output program invokes. So it will go to the input-output program, right? And you can see the interrupts or the cross here at the user program. And when this happens, the interrupt request signal to the processor, and it will go to the interrupt handler. And this one basically provided by the operating system. And this interrupt handler will do the interrupts and pass back to the user program until the next interrupts occurs. And this one will go to the interrupt handler again. Right, and this one same with the diagram B, but it has the long input-output wait. With interrupts, the processor can be engaged in executing other instructions while an input-output operation is in progress. The input-output module for the external device sends an interrupt request signal to the processor. The processor responds by suspending operation of the current program, branching off to a program to service that particular input-output device, known as an interrupt handler, and resuming the original execution after the device is serviced. Interrupt handler program is generally part of the operating system. If you see here the user program, and this one is the interrupt handler. So the interrupt occurs at this point of time. And when this happens, it will signal the interrupt request to the processor. And the processor will branch the program to service that particular input-output device. And it will go to the interrupt handler. And basically, this interrupt handler is provided by the operating system. When the interrupt handler completed its works, it will resume the original execution after the device is serviced. To accommodate interrupts, an interrupt cycle is added to the instruction cycle. So basically, we know the basic instruction cycle, and this one is a diagram with the instruction cycle with interrupts. In the interrupt cycle, the processor checks to see if any interrupts have occurred, indicated by the presence of an interrupt signal. So basically, the processor first will fetch the next instruction, and then it will execute instruction. And if the interrupt signal happens, it will go to the check for interrupt and process interrupt cycle. If no interrupts are pending, the processor proceeds to the fetch cycle and fetches the next instruction of the current program. If an interrupt is pending, the processor does the following. It suspends execution of the current program being executed and saves its context. This means saving the address of the next instruction to be executed, current contents of the program counter, and any other data relevant to the processor's current activity. It sets the program counter to the starting address of an interrupt handler routine. Before this, we see the instruction cycle state diagram, and this one is the revised one when include the interrupt cycle processing. So this one is a revised instruction cycle state diagram that includes interrupt cycle processing. There is multiple interrupts. The multiple interrupts approaches can be categorized into two, which is disable interrupt and define priority. In the disable interrupt, the processor is able to disable interrupts while an interrupt is being processed. Processor can and will ignore that interrupt request signal. If an interrupt occurs during this time, it generally remains pending and will be checked by the processor after the processor has enabled interrupts. Thus, when a user program is executing and an interrupt occurs, interrupts are disabled immediately. After the interrupt handler routine completes, interrupts are enabled before resuming the user program, and the processor checks to see if additional interrupts have occurred. This approach is nice and simple, as interrupts are handled in strict sequential order. However, the drawback to the preceding approach is that it does not take into account relative priority or time-critical needs. This is the example of the sequential interrupt processing or disable interrupt. So this is the user program and the interrupts happen here. When interrupts happen, the processor will go to the interrupt handler and request the interrupt handler operation until ends of the interrupt handler. And then the processor will check if there is any additional interrupts occurred in the user program. And if there is any, it will go to the next interrupt handler and process the interrupt handler until the end of the interruption process, and it will pass back to the user program. So this one is one by one or sequential interrupt processing order. The next approach is define priority. So the processor, in define priorities, the processor define the priorities for interrupts and to allow an interrupt of higher priority to cause a lower priority interrupt handler to be itself interrupted. And it has the interrupt service routine or ISR. The example is the nested interrupt processing. So here we have the user program and we have interrupt handler for X and interrupt handler for Y. When the user program execute and it requests for the interrupt, it will go to the interrupt handler. And this one, it will not execute the interrupt handler X until the end, like the disable interrupts or the sequential interrupt processing. The nested interrupt processing can happen while the interrupt handler executing. For example, here in the interrupt handler, when it executes, it requests another interrupt handler, which is interrupt handler Y. And this one, interrupt handler Y, will process or execute the interrupt until it completes and pass to the interrupt handler X, and the interrupt handler X will resume the process until it ends and give back to the user program. This can be reflect to the time sequence of multiple interrupts. So this one in the user program at time 10, it calls the printer interrupt service routine. While the printer do the execution at time 15, it requests another interrupt handler, which is the communication interrupt service routine. And this one, the communication interrupt service routine, execute the interruption until it completes at time 25, and it passes back to the printer interrupt service routine. And the processor checks whether there is any other interrupts requested or interrupt signal. So it has another interrupt interrupt service routine, which is this interrupt service routine, and this one it processes until the end or completes the interrupts execution at time 35. and this one passed back to the printer interrupt service routine, and the printer interrupt service routine completes its execution until time 40, and after that it passed back to the user program. Another function in our computer is the input-output function. Input-output module can exchange data directly with the processor. Processor can read data from or write data to an input-output module. Processor identifies a specific device that is controlled by a particular input-output module. Input-output instructions rather than memory referencing instructions. In some cases, it is desirable to allow input-output exchanges to occur directly with memory. So the processor grants to an input-output module the authority to read from or write to memory so that the input-output memory transfer can occur without tying up the processor. The input-output module issues a read or write commands to memory, relieving the processor of responsibility for the exchange. This operation is known as direct memory access or DMA.